Hey guys, welcome back to the Self-Evident Podcast live stream from the Truth to Power Conference. You notice I have Pastor Todd Mozingo with me, and I have Anthony Sabatini. Sorry, tongue twister. Sabatini. He's come down to help us. He's come down to speak, tore it up. And we want to just give a little bit of a recap of what he was talking about, because I think it's something that goes by the wayside, and we tend to say, well, social issues shouldn't be involved in government, yet the left is doing it the whole time. They're putting social issues into government, and then the conservatives say, well, we can't talk about that, we can't deal with that. So Anthony, to tee it up for you, what are some of your most passionate issues when we're talking about social issues that are getting pushed forward by progressives, communists in this day and age?
Well, first, let me say that the historic dichotomy between financial or economic versus social issues is really sort of a false one, because our mode of government, as John Adams said, is only fit for a religious and virtuous people. And if you don't have strongly conservative cultural, social set of laws and expectations and customs, you're never going to have free market capitalism. You're never going to have an open, free economy, which requires personal responsibility and civic responsibility and trust. You're not going to have those things if you don't have a strong social fabric. So for me, social conservatism is the heart of it all. And that begins, I think, first and foremost with protecting the family. The family unit is the great mediating institution in Western civilization. It's what makes people sacrifice and put their personal, coarse self-interest aside and start trying to give back and plan for a bigger and better future. If you don't have families, if you don't have things and people and things you truly love and willing to lay your life and time and effort and everything down for, then what you'll have is a society of all self-interested, licentious individuals that will devour everything and leave nothing for the future. And the truth of the matter is, if you look at American history in the last 50 years, you're seeing that right now. I mean, the boomer generation, a lot of great things happened, a lot of great people in it, but generally you saw a tragic rise in debt and lifestyle choices that have basically left a burden on future generations. And I think that has to do with the untying of a social fabric and family ties in our society. With that said, how do you protect the family? The biggest attack on family today is coming in the name of attacks on gender and transgenderism. They use this transgender issue as a wedge to destabilize the way people think, have always thought, and still continue to think about gender today. And the reason they do that is, once gender's gone as a category, what you're going to find is that there's no way intellectually you can uphold respectfully and in the law and in political society respect and understanding of the family. Basically, family itself will be disregarded in the law and in politics if you get rid of gender. And that's horrifying. So we need to make people alert to the threat against the family through the attack on gender, but in the name of transgenderism, transgender rights, transgender surgeries. It's just about the destruction of the American family today. And so one of the bills I'm most passionate about is a bill to stop the social engineering that goes by the name transgender surgeries. It's these types of clinical interventions where they take small children and pump them full of hormone blockers and testosterone blockers and all this stuff to try to, quote unquote, change their gender, which obviously you can't really do, but at least give them the perception that you can. And what this would do, of course, is, once again, further erode the societal respect for the definition and understanding of gender that exists presently. And so this is a big bill for me. The Governor DeSantis said he would sign this bill if we got through the legislature.
Awesome.
But you have this enormous cowardice and spiritual rot within the elected ranks of Republicans in America today, who would rather kill this bill knowing that it's a great bill that would stop harm and stop the attack on Western civilization, but would save them their own skin from being attacked by the media. And this is what you're seeing a lot with the cowardly elected Republican ranks. They would rather evade being attacked by the liberal media or some other special institution, woke corporations, whatever, than actually save the Republicans, save the family.
Yeah, I noticed today while you talked, you made a point of saying that, hey, gender dysphoria is an issue.
Oh, yeah.
It's something that needs to be addressed. And maybe without going too far to the extreme, we've talked about it here before that, gender is male and female. That's not in doubt. However, there can be a dysphoria in the mind that creates multiple genders. So the way we've expressed it here before is if you came to me and said, I'm a cat, I believe that I'm a cat, I was born a cat, I'm a cat. There's not a doctor on the planet who is going to surgically put a tail on you or implant whiskers for now.
Right.
For now. Okay. Why? Because they're saying this is a problem with your mind. You shouldn't be thinking you're a cat. Something's happened. Something's wrong. So let's work with your mind. But I think you make an excellent point of if you take gender out of the mix and then anybody is anything they want to be, it opens the door for everything they want to be being okay and acceptable and surgical.
And it becomes forceful. So you notice what's happening. Like there was that case in Texas not too long ago where the father was fighting to keep his son from being transitioned by his ex-wife, and there was this big long custody battle. And it's funny how as soon as this type of thing is allowed, the destruction of a child, it becomes forced. And it's enforced by the government where the judge is saying, no, this child needs to be put on puberty blockers and transitioned, and the father's not allowed in.
And I think the horror of what he expressed today is partly that we're not even allowing the child to go through puberty where those things, that dysphoria, would be resolved.
Right.
That's exactly right. Once it's allowed, it then becomes part of the regime, and anyone who dissents is going to be destroyed. This is the whole project of leftism is they choose a set of rules that they think is best for everyone, and it's shoved down everyone's throat. And this is why it needs to be resisted. The beauty of this issue, though, as a political issue, I'm saying this like as a historian kind of, is that this is really so absurd. It's so absurd to try to convince people that gender doesn't exist, that there's unlimited genders, not a finite number. It's not, the number's not 2, it's unlimited. That you're forcing people to espouse views that are not only completely and totally counterintuitive, but historically and based on present science, totally and completely untrue. And yet it's happening by the highest, most powerful institutions in society today, from the New York Times all the way down, higher education, et cetera. And so what does this mean? It means that what we have to do is fight back. And you got to fight back because people are with us. They know it's a lie. They know that the whole transgender scheme is a lie. They know that it's part of a bigger plot to try to erase not just gender, but any category or classification in Western civilization. They want basically to just batter down and destroy all cultures. So that way, the special select of beliefs that they have or become the only allowed opinion in society. It's cultural totalitarianism, and we have to fight back.
Yeah, it's in engineering, and it happens on all fronts. And I'm really glad that you're nailing the idea that this isn't just an attack on science, right? Because conservatives like, you're attacking science yourself, and true. But what it really is an attack on the family. It's an end around. If you can, especially in the sense of like, God created a man and a woman to play certain roles and fulfill those roles really, really well. The men and women are generally designed for a certain purpose. And as soon as you can skew and mix and make it vague or obscure the true definition of role of a person, create confusion, all of a sudden everybody's confused, and then the family breaks down because people don't understand, what's my role in this? How am I supposed to be moving forward in this?
That's exactly right. It's about destabilizing all of our traditions in Western civilization and America today, to the point where people just feel impotent and neutered and just meaningless, because none of what we've inherited, our American heritage, is allowed to be espoused in the eyes of the left. So that's what it's really about: battering everything down, destroying all of our traditions that enable us a sense of identity and purpose in culture today, and destroying it also all that's left when you've destroyed everything: family, language, objective truth, radical cultural relativism, battering everything down. All that will be left are basically 2 entities: the state and the individual. And that's communism. And that's what they ultimately want. Now, of course, They'll tell you they don't because they are unaware of it. It's sort of an unconscious desire that they have. But what they really want is, at the end of the day, no classification, no bounding principles that control anybody but the state. It'll be the state and the individual, nothing else.
Right.
Now, one of the other tools
Pure
you
communism.
talked about today as far as resolving these conflicts are schooling and school vouchering. Tell us a little bit about where you want to go with that.
Well, we need to radically empower parents to control the lives of their own families. And that begins with voucher schools, where a parent would be given an economic voucher saying, hey, you get $10,000 for the year or $5,000, whatever the number is, to educate your child. And if you did this, if the state of Florida and other states around the country did these so-called education savings accounts, these amounts of dollars that follow the kid and the parents have total control where the kid goes, you would see a proliferation of new models of Christian education blowing up, just exploding in popularity around the state. And I think it would lead to an enormous spiritual renewal in our country, which I think has been long necessary in order for us to reverse course. It all starts with education in the mind. It's one of the reasons why in Plato's Republic, the wisest philosopher Plato, debated so much the methods and style of education that young people would get in the ideal society, because education determines everything.
Yeah.
And if you have never experienced the Word of God and you know nothing about theology and the Bible, etc., you're going to end up being quite a different person than what I think is the kind of proper citizen we need to participate in a republic today.
I love the fact that the voucher system then allows parents to say, I want my child raised in a value system. I want them raised in a Christian organization. I want them trained and taught up that way. And it gives them the freedom to do that. I think it's a beautiful comment you made today in just helping parents see the value of this voucher system that we've heard about, but we really don't know where it's at.
Yeah, values listen, there's going to be folks who say, no, we teach values in the schools and we have a moral.
Not the values we want.
Yeah, what kind of morals are you teaching?
Well, the truth is, let's go back. So when they got rid of discipline in the schools, right? No discipline. And I don't mean just physical discipline, but any kind of moral discipline either. Any kind of real sense of accountability, which gives people their identity. Even young people, 12, 13 years old. I remember a principal once telling me, Sabatini, you're getting all this trouble. You're either going to end up one day in prison or in the U.S. Senate, and you got to make that decision. That
sounds prophetic to me.
Accountability.
Yeah.
But it doesn't exist anymore. You're not going to do that. There's no way they can do that. If anything, there's no sense of treating these kids as individuals. We need to go back to a traditional classical style of education where there's a much more moral presence. In my opinion, it should be a religious teaching in the school. But even if a parent didn't want to go to a Christian school, he would still choose a school that put their kid in one that's based on moral values to some extent.
Yeah.
And right now you have the complete deficit, complete and total absence of that in public education. And it's really hurting society. So once you have options on the table through these savings accounts, you're going to see a spiritual renewal. But it's not going to happen right now until Republicans go on offense and really take a hammer and a sledgehammer to this failed government school oligarchy and go back to pure parental educational freedom.
Good words.
And I don't know of a parent who wouldn't want to be able to have a choice in where they're sending their children, what they're doing with their children's education. I mean, what parent, when given, well, we can either determine all of it for you and we'll control it and we'll control the destiny of your child, or you can do it. What parent goes, yeah, you take care of it?
Yeah.
Yeah, even parents that are agnostic or atheists or maybe don't share our values will literally prefer to put their kid in a moral values-based society because in their hearts they know that their kid is going to end up being lost in the sea, culturally sick sea that our society has become. And they might not be morally upstanding citizens, but they don't want their kids basically to live in the chaotic and moral world that I think our culture has become, and they would choose to put their kids in an environment that built up a moral foundation for them. I just know that to be true by talking to parents who might not even be the most devout Christians.
So that's a great segue in the world of chaos and lack of truth to talk about Fauci and vaccines.
Sure. Yeah. Well, they've obviously lied about the efficacy of the vaccine. They're calling it a vaccine when it's so dissimilar from a normal vaccine that it's all just really been kind of a big lie. And the booster shots are just the next instantiation of the lie. And so, we've said from the beginning, this is an illness that is prevented through good health choices and exercise and eating right and dietary, wisdom. And we're not seeing that practiced. And people really think you can just take a vaccine or take a pill or take a drug and all your problems are going to go away. And it's just been a realm of lies.
We've obviously seen that, vaccines need boosters and the vaccinated can get it. The vaccinated can transmit it. And so we're now in this state of, hey, here's the people who are vaxxed and what they can do. And here's the people who are not vaxxed and what they can. Well, matter of fact, they need to lose their job. But to me, when you go back to Fauci specifically, now you're talking about control tools.
Right.
You're talking about imposition. You're not talking about natural immunity. I'm a guy that likes to go on cruises. I can't go on a cruise right now because you have to be vaccinated to go on a cruise. I'm asking the question to the cruise industry, why does a positive COVID test followed by a negative COVID test not equal a vaccination?
Right.
Why, if I go and get an antibody test to prove that I've already had it and I have a natural immunity, why doesn't it equal the vaccine card? Because all we have is vaccination.
Well, I mean, you're engaging in a very futile practice of trying to apply logic to an insane regime based purely on ideology and power. It's still fun to do, and it's interesting. And the governor the other day said how crazy that they're firing the nurses who have antibodies who aren't vaccinated, so they permanently can't get the vaccine. They can't get COVID again, but aren't vaccinated, and they're hiring nurses who have been vaccinated but who are positive and bringing them back on the job if they don't have symptoms because of the nurse shortage. So think about this logic.
Insanity.
You can't get it.
No, there's no logic.
Fired.
There.
You probably have it, including you might have it right now, but you've been vaccinated. Even though you have it right now, you're vaccinated. We're bringing you back on. It's worse than illogical. It's the opposite of the truth. It's a complete and total fictitious, dangerous policy that is jammed down the country's throat. It's scary.
I appreciate the way you speak on it because I do think the house of cards is crumbling right now. When people are beginning to realize the vaccine doesn't work, people get and so now we're under the mask of, well, it'll keep you from death. But if you go look at the numbers of Omicron, there's not death. There's not death that's comparable in any way to COVID. I want to thank you for being here today. I want to thank you for your words. I want to thank you for your courage. You have been a light in this place, and I look forward to seeing more about what you're going to do in this country.
Well, thank you guys. God bless. I can't wait to come back.
All right. So thank you very much, guys, for tuning in. We appreciate the fact that you're watching. We appreciate your support. Man, look this guy up. Vote for him. Support him. Finally, somebody who's standing firm even when nobody else will. So till next time, guys, we love you. Thank you so much.